Hello and welcome back to the Go-Stroid development series. Today will be a relatively short video where we handle a few minor reworks that'll tighten up our code, make it run a bit smoother, and at the same time make it just a little bit easier to use in the future. So the first thing we're going to go and deal with will be the screen wrap handler. Now we just need to change a little thing about it, make it a little bit easier to read. Easy way of doing this is you can search it in your file system if you want to. You can go and just type screen. Make sure to spell it correctly. There you go. Screen wrap handler. You get the GD. You could go to your player ships scene and pull it from there as well by opening the script like that. Either one works. But now that we have this, we are going to just change the handle object wrapped code because this is a bit of an eyeful, right? There's a lot of code here that is kind of just repeated and doing the same thing. It's 4 if statements when it could just actually be 2 lines of code. So let's go and set those 2 lines of code. We're going to remove everything inside of the handle object wrap. We're now going to go and grab the owner node dot position dot x. We're going to set that equal to something. Dot x. There we go. We're going to set that equal to something. We're going to set this equal to the fpos mod or fposition modifier. I think that's what that stands for memory serves. So fpos, so fpos mod, and you'll see that it pops up. And then we open brackets or open parentheses to actually have these opened, and you'll see there is an X and a Y floating position here. Let's go and control left click on fpos mod and see what happens. So it returns the floating point modulus of X divided by Y, wrapping equally in positive and negative. That is actually exactly what we're going to need, and here is literally the entire function behind it. So how do we use this to kind of do what we want to do? Well, if we go back to the screen wrap handler, it's going to be as simple as putting in the owner node dot position dot x and then the screen size dot x, and this will basically handle the x direction or the left and right movement from the screen for us. And now we just need to do the same thing. So owner node dot position dot y is equal to the fpos mod owner node dot position dot y and the screen size dot y. There we go. Now if I hit Control S or Command S and save and go and hit play, we should see that we wrap correctly still. So technically nothing has changed, and yet this is a little bit more performant, a little bit easy to use, and it's only 2 lines of code. Really, really nice. This was recommended by a lovely viewer who is extremely helpful, especially in the Discord. So, you know, if you want to see stuff like this and actually get input on videos and help me kind of create this stuff, please come down to the Discord. A link will be in the description. So the next thing that we want to go and move on to is our entity spawn manager, which once again, this was a suggestion in the comments, and yeah, no, it's a really good suggestion. So what we want to do here is pretty much change the set asteroid spawnable. Now we're going to do this in a kind of a little bit backwards of a way, or at least the coding part of this will be a bit backwards, but the actual output will be correct. So what we want to do is first remove this boolean, this var can spawn asteroid bool equals true. We can use Control or Command X to cut that out. Now it's going to throw errors everywhere. That is completely okay. We're going to put that variable inside of the set asteroid spawnable, like so. And now what we want to do is change where it says set asteroid spawnable from void to bool. So this now returns a boolean. Now it will error out and it will say, you know, it's not actually returning anything, or not all lines return code. So after the if else statement, we can just do can spawn asteroid or return can spawn asteroid, like so. Now what this will do is basically return true or false depending on what evaluates in this if else statement, and that's what it will set this variable to. And yeah, so it'll just return true or false. Really great, right? That kind of allows us to change a few things. Like right here, we can change this to, so instead of if can spawn asteroid, because it doesn't know what can spawn asteroid is anymore, we can change this to set underscore asteroid spawnable. Now, the other thing that this person also brought up was the fact that set asteroid spawnable doesn't entirely make sense to be named that way. Instead, what we can do is if we use Control D or Command D, and then we press that 3 times, it'll highlight all 3 usages of set asteroid spawnable. we use the left arrow to go to the beginning of the line that's at, like so, or the beginning of the word. And then we move to where it says set, and we change set to is. And that's it. We are now checking if the asteroid is spawnable. If it evaluates to true, it will do everything it needs to. If it does not, it will do nothing. So what I can do here is just make that even clearer with an else statement and just return. Just so it's, a little bit more visible about what is happening and when things are happening. And of course, we can do things now that, if the asteroid is not spawnable, do something else if we really want to. Instead, we're just going to return. So that handles the entity spawner and just kind of tightens up a little bit, and it makes it a little bit easier to use. It means we can change a lot of the code in here and change how it's used, and we can then just call this anywhere we want or anywhere we'll need to in the future. So now we can hit run project. You can see it's spawned 1 asteroid, spawned 2 asteroids, and it won't spawn anymore. So we've got our wrapping and our asteroid spawning handled. The next thing is a little bit more of a visual thing that I didn't really want to do until a lot later, but I thought it would be kind of just fun to add into this video as a little, just something a little and cool to figure out how to do, I suppose. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our large asteroid, and we're going to define a few new things in here. The first thing we're going to define at the very top will be an @onReady. I can spell onReady, there we go. And it will be for the sprite 2D of the asteroid. Now, here's a really easy way of doing this. We can go to the large asteroid, we can go to the sprite 2D, we can left click drag, and then hold down Command or Control as we drop, and it'll create the onReady for us. Then we typecast that as a sprite 2D, so the machine definitely knows that's what it is. And now we can kind of use this and modify this how we want to. And what we're going to be doing here is randomizing the texture of the asteroid, just so it's a different asteroid every time it spawns, or maybe different every time it spawns, depending on how many textures we have. But for that, we're also going to be wanting to have a way of setting all of the textures that we want to choose. Now, we could just go and put everything inside of one folder, and then kind of use file access or directory access to access that, and then just pick a random file out of that. That can be good if you want to just add a lot of different files, but we only have 4 that we technically want to use. So what we're going to do here is just below our movement speed, or our variable for our movement speed, we're going to use @export var. We're going to call this the large _ asteroid _ texture, just to make sure it's very obvious that's what it is. We're going to call this or set this as an array, open our square brackets, and we're going to set this array of texture 2D. We'll set it to an array of texture 2D. Why are we using texture 2D? Well, once again, if we hover over the sprite, click on that, go to where it says texture, it says here, property texture, texture 2D object to draw. So that's what we want. We want a texture 2D. Now we set that equal to an empty array. So this will give us, if I hit Control S or Command S, and then go to the large asteroid, it will give us a large asteroid texture array. So now what we can do is if we go into our assets folder, we go into the PNG side, into meteors, we can pick these 4 big meteors, or 4 brown ones. I'm going to use the 4 grey ones here, the 4 big grey ones. So we add 4 elements like so. So you've got 0, 1, 2, and 3. Now we just pull these in. That's 1, or 0, 1, 2, and that's 3. That's all of the different asteroids that we want to use, and these are all of just the large ones specifically. So we'll be able to do this for the small or medium-sized asteroids too. Now at the very bottom of our script, we just need to create a very quick function that will handle the choosing of random textures. So to do that, we'll hit func, or we'll write func. We use choose _random _texture. It will be of void return type with 0 parameters. And we're going to first grab the large asteroid texture array. Call that large asteroid texture, that'll be fine. Then we're going to use .shuffle. So this will shuffle all of the textures inside of it, so it will randomize it a little bit more. And then what we're going to do is grab the sprite 2D that we grabbed. We're going to use .texture, and we're going to set that equal to the large asteroid texture .pick random. Now, a really smart way of kind of doing this is to create a variable above the sprite 2D and just call this new underscore texture, and then set that as a texture 2D equal to the large asteroid texture dot pick random, like this, and then we can just set the dot texture to new texture. That way it's a little bit more readable, we know exactly what's happening. Now, as I was making a texture 2D there, you may have saw something pop up, and that is a texture 2D array. Now, we could use a texture 2D array, we don't want to, we're just going to use a normal texture, or a normal array of type texture 2D, just because that's a little bit easier to use right now, and we don't need to be diving into texture 2D arrays. Now, that is pretty much all of the changes I want to make. Let's first make sure that choose a random texture is being called. We need to go and do that inside of the ready function. I will make sure that is called first before the randomizing of the rotation. And now I'm going to hit play, and we're going to make sure that it's actually running. Okay, it's a different texture. That looks like it might be the same texture. Let's try again. That's definitely a different texture. And that's a different texture. So we now have two different asteroids. Now, you could use the brown ones, you could use the grey ones. If we add 4 more elements to this, we could use both at the same time. Let's go and do that. There we go. Now, the reason why I'm only using, why I only want to use one color of the textures is because I would like to be able to have different types of meteors. So grey and brown meteors being just a little bit different. So one can have more defenses or contain something a little bit different or something along those lines. But if you don't really care about that too much, you can use both at the same time. It will just lead to a little bit of a coding change that you may have to make in the future when we get to handling the meteors exploding and splitting into smaller meteors. But thank you for watching. That is all I have for today. I hope you're having a great day and a great game dev journey, and I will see you in the next video.